The headlines, the issues impacting you and your family. This week in Cincinnati on WCPO 9.
Welcome to This Week in Cincinnati. Hope you're having a good weekend. I'm Craig McKee. During this half hour, we will take a look back at some of the most impactful stories WCPO 9 News covered for you this week. First today, a man who spent 28 years in prison for a murder he says he didn't commit will have to wait a little longer now to confront those who oversaw his case. William Rickey Virgil sued many of those detectives and the city of Newport for wrongful conviction. That trial was set to begin later this month. Investigative reporter Paula Christian explains why a federal judge decided to delay his trial and what this means for Virgil, who turns 70 this year.
Conviction has been vacated.
This is video from December of 2015 when a Kentucky judge granted Virgil a new trial. This came after Kentucky Innocence Project attorneys pushed for DNA testing that they say exonerated Virgil in the brutal murder of Retha Welch inside her Newport apartment in 1987.
Apparently she was hit in the head, and we think it's by a crock pitcher that was found on the floor in the kitchen.
Virgil's friend Karen Oglesby was in the courtroom that day that Virgil won a new trial, and she says police arrested the wrong man.
When this was supposed to take place, he was at my party.
Virgil filed a civil suit against Newport police in 2016, saying they fabricated evidence and paid a jail witness to testify against him. He hired a Chicago law firm who has won multi-million-dollar verdicts in wrongful conviction cases across the country. But just as the case was about to go to trial in federal court in Covington on August 23rd, the city of Newport asked for a delay. The city wants to give two former officers time to appeal. They say qualified immunity shields them from having to go to trial. Judge David Bunning agreed to the delay on July 27th. This likely puts the trial on hold for at least a year. I reached out to attorneys on both sides, but no one would go on camera. Virgil's attorneys say in court filings, quote, "People do not live forever. Justice delayed is justice denied." Paula Christian, WCPO 9 I-Team.
If you'd like to learn more details about the inmate who says Newport police coerced him to falsely testify against Virgil, you can read Paula's story over on WCPO.com. You know, as we've reported, 98 lives were lost when a condo building filled with sleeping tenants at the time crashed to the ground more than a month ago. The Surfside, Florida collapse appears to have started well before the incident, with cracks growing in its foundation. Residents at a high-rise in Hyde Park who saw similar damage turned to our I-Team, and now they are seeing more help from the city. For the second week in a row, a building inspector has ordered new repairs for the Madison House. And now, yet another resident has reached out to investigative reporter Dan Monk with a new safety concern at the luxury high-rise.
For the second week in a row, a city building inspector is ordering new repairs for the Madison House condo tower here in Hyde Park. But just like last week, another resident has come forward with a new safety concern about this luxury high-rise property.
I was diagnosed with a mild traumatic brain injury.
Hamilton County Municipal Judge Bertie Helmick needed staples and 2 eye surgeries after falling on these steps last October.
Shortly after my left eyeball collapsed, my right eyeball collapsed.
But now she's considering a lawsuit. She says the new railing installed after her fall does not comply with safety standards in the Americans with Disabilities Act.
I'm not the type of person who wants to create problems for the building. I would wish that they would do this on their own. Certainly the city should come out and check the repairs and see that they were done in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. I would like them to do that.
The city of Cincinnati issued 3 violations after the I-Team showed you this crumbling concrete and exposed rebar in the Madison House garage. Last week, we showed you similar problems in a basement storage room. This morning, Cincinnati building inspectors ordered the Madison House to restore the structural integrity of all concrete and rebar in the basement and garage. Madison House did not respond to the I-Team's request for comment.
It's a start.
Edgar Raguses has been pushing for structural repairs at Madison House for years.
They need to be more proactive. They need to examine the entire structure, including every patio.
Judge Helmick would like to see a forensic engineering study of the 60-year-old building's structural integrity.
It is very frustrating to hear piecemeal. I don't want to be placated or condescended to and said, and to be told we've decided to blacktop when there are obvious problems with the building.
Dan Monk, WCPO 9 I-Team.
Although Madison House will not talk to the I-Team, leaders there have sent messages to the building's residents, assuring them that the property is safe. It's an issue we will continue to follow. You may have seen this map right here from the CDC this week. It shows areas with high or substantial transmission of COVID-19 in both red and orange. The Centers for Disease Control is now banning evictions in those areas until October 3rd. But in Hamilton County, the municipal court says that eviction moratorium does not apply. The municipal court cites a ruling last month from the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. WCPO 9 News reporter Courtney Francisco this week took a closer look at what you need to know and how you need to prepare to keep your home.
While the eviction ban is still uncertain, you need to know that rent money is available in every county in the United States through local community action agencies. I want to show you on my phone how easy it can be to access that in your area. So for us, we would go to cincy-caa.org. Scroll down for me to Home Relief Program. Click Apply Now. Scroll a little more, Apply Now again. It opens up a box where you can apply if you are a tenant or a landlord. Click here to pre-qualify, then click through the questions.
Eviction court carried on for some in Hamilton County 1 day after the Biden administration announced another pandemic moratorium.
I had the possibility that I was going to be homeless added on top of like the fact that I couldn't find a job.
Matt Games faced the threat after losing his Greater Cincinnati banking job last year. Landlord groups too share stories of struggle.
And it was their life savings they put into these units to be retirement, and then they haven't been getting paid.
Hamilton County Jobs and Family Services Interim Chief Operating Officer Kevin Holt was at the courthouse Wednesday.
We're trying to intervene in that.
Informing people more than $77 million is still available in Hamilton County to pay their rent. You can see on this U.S. Department of Treasury list hundreds of millions of dollars in rental assistance money divvied out to Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, plus specific cities and counties.
And we're pushing out hundreds of thousands of dollars every week.
Once you apply online, advocates say it can take about 5 days to get an approval letter to give to your landlord, but getting the check takes longer.
And that's why we need the moratorium back, so that no one gets evicted while they're waiting in line.
Personally, I don't think so. It's really about how to get the fundings out. The money's there.
A previous Supreme Court ruling blocked extending a past moratorium beyond July. For now, this one expires October 3rd. Both sides agree don't put off getting help.
It seems like, oh, well, that's plenty of time. Not while you're trying to find a job, not when you don't have resources to move all your stuff.
That was Courtney Francisco reporting. If you want protection, you have to file for it in court. The Legal and Society of Greater Cincinnati can help families to do that.
Still ahead, leaving a legacy behind.
All I had to do was put together the right people to do it.
A local Army veteran is making a difference as he nears retirement. How a program he created is gaining traction statewide.
A program created within the Cincinnati Police Department is being pushed out statewide, and it's a legacy an Army veteran will leave behind as he looks toward retirement.
I guess I look at it as the way I made a little bit of impact in the world.
Sergeant Dave Corlett is the last person you'd see volunteer to go in front of the camera to talk about himself. In fact, it took me a couple of weeks to get him to agree to sit down with me at Washington Park to discuss part of the legacy he will leave behind.
Something that was so easy to do, and all I had to do was put together the right people to do it.
Corlett created the Military Liaison Group within the department, an internal team of former military ready to respond when officers come across a veteran in distress.
Last year we were, about 1,000 officers, over 300 veterans in the department, so we're more than a 30% veteran department. Right. Which really allowed me to very easily expand the program.
Corlett served in the Army. The enamel pin on his uniform shows it off proudly, and it's part of what creates that connection to a veteran when these officers respond.
The communication that goes on between two veterans is much different than the communication that would go on between a law enforcement officer and a veteran. The ability to have relatable experiences is just you can't get any better than that.
It's part of the de-escalation of a situation, which then turns into a member of the MLG getting the veteran the help they need. And it's a program that has had great success. Corlett recalls a situation of a barricaded veteran threatening suicide.
Our crisis negotiator had been on the phone with him for 90 minutes before he remembered that we existed. Called me, woke me up, and said, "Hey, I need you down here." 10 minutes later, he walked out and surrendered to me, and I personally drove him up to the Veterans Administration Hospital.
Now the state of Ohio and the AG's office is looking to at least push it out as a major recommendation for departments statewide. What does that feel like?
I'm thrilled. I'm honored. We've always said that our goal was to expand this program. We believe this should be something that's nationwide.
I was so impressed by this. I immediately talked to my team and said, we need to push this out around the state. We need to help other departments begin to do this.
Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost says while it's not a requirement for departments to roll out the program, it is highly encouraged due to its positive impact on veterans and the officers on patrol.
Cincinnati has a great idea here. They're leading, and I've got a big microphone. I'm trying to get around the state and say, we think this is worthwhile.
This program brought me back to that place where I know I'm making a difference, and that was my goal as a policeman to begin with.
Now, the cost to implement this program is literally little more than the cost of enamel pins for an officer's uniform that shows their branch of service. Sergeant Corlett says as it stands right now, there are typically 3 veterans on duty at any given time to be able to respond to a call where a veteran might be in crisis. If you'd like more information, I'll share all the details over on WCPO.com and in the Homefront Facebook group. Welcome back to This Week in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority provides affordable housing for people in need. But some residents in Lincoln Heights say the agency is just not fulfilling its responsibilities to the public. They are being forced to move because of necessary renovations. But tenants say CMHA left them in the dark about the details. For instance, where this temporary relocation will take them. As reporter Monique John shows us, this leaves the tenants stressed and unsure about the future.
What letter is that? 25-year-old Talia Green is one of the residents in the 74-unit complex that the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority owns. Like so many of her frustrated neighbors, Green has been waiting for months to find out when and where her family will have to move while renovations are being done at their current home, Mariana Terrace.
It's very vague right now. I feel very, it feels unorganized to me. I feel like I'm misinformed or just completely not informed at all.
Green represents a slew of tenants whose lives are being upended as they plan to transition temporarily to another, as of yet unknown property. This busy nursing student and mother of 2 says she's concerned they might have to move to a place that is poorly maintained and in a troubled area. But her biggest anxiety? Having to move while caring for her newborn child. Green's 3rd child is due in October.
If it's a place that I don't feel comfortable in, then I'd like to be able to have adequate time to make my own, my own situation and maybe just completely opt out from where they choose to send me, especially with a newborn baby.
Angel Smith, 42, is a widow, mother of 4 children, and she's blind. She says that having to move is already difficult for her and her family because of her fixed income. Smith shares Green's frustration with CMHA for not giving them adequate and consistent information about the big change ahead.
I'm not knowing anything about when we're supposed to move, if we're still moving, what location we're moving to. I have none of this information, and it's stressful.
The renovations at Mariana Terrace are a project being led by CMHA to make improvements and resolve backlog maintenance issues. It's part of the Rental Assistance Demonstration, or RAD program. First announced in 2017, CMHA says it's leveraging RAD to upgrade a host of things like appliances, porches, lighting, plumbing, and recreational spaces. It's unclear when or for how long these renovations will be made.
The residents, they deserve better.
Leaders in the Lincoln Heights community say they're optimistic about the changes to come, but that the housing authority is failing to properly service its tenants.
I do hold them to a higher standard, and they have not met that standard.
CMHA issued this email statement. Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority has provided open communication with residents about the process for the past 4 years. Just recently, the CEO provided an update to the Lincoln Heights City Council, and there was no negative feedback. The Housing Authority has hosted 8 meetings with residents since 2018 to address the renovations and moving plans. In addition to leaving notices in front doors and making site visits, CMHA says its next meeting for residents is scheduled for Monday, August 9th. Despite this, residents tell us CMHA's efforts have been insufficient, calling for them to become more accessible and aware of residents' individual circumstances.
We need to be treated like any other residents at any other housing place, whether it be income-based or not.
Reporting with Lucy May in Lincoln Heights, I'm Monique John, WCPO 9 News.
Motorcycles rumbled through Springdale this week, all in a unique tribute here for a fallen officer. Take a look with me here. The End of Watch Ride to Remember was organized by people, and they travel the country here, visiting the police departments of officers killed in the line of duty to honor their sacrifice and that of their families. You can see all the photos there, the images. One of those photos, Officer Kaya Grant. Officer Grant died in March of 2020 when a suspect involved in a pursuit crashed into police cruisers.
There were all kinds of emotions, but really, honestly, my biggest emotion was I felt honored and proud that someone thinks enough of Kaya that they would travel all around the country to help keep her name. So it's really more than anything else, I'm tremendously uplifted.
The group of motorcycle riders have made more than 300 stops this year, covering over 22,000 miles. The family of the founder of Cintas Corporation is mourning the death of Richard Dick Farmer. He died Wednesday at the age of 86. Farmer started Cintas, now the nation's largest uniform rental company, back in 1968. He graduated from Miami University, and the School of Business there now bears his name. Next on This Week in Cincinnati, gone but not forgotten. Families who lost loved ones to COVID-19 are celebrating their memories with a brand new exhibit in northern Kentucky. Welcome back. COVID-19 has impacted so many families. Now, a Northern Kentucky art exhibit has been showing us a few of the faces of those who lost their lives to the virus. It's a chance for artists and families to provide some perspective on what so many here have endured. On Thursday this week, WCPO 9 News reporter Josh Bazan had the story of one of those families.
Really enjoyed life. Loved the outdoors. He loved going to live music.
Scott Kinsella was as loved by his family as he loved them.
Just a very vibrant, full of personality, very, very funny man.
But Kinsella was just 56 when he got sick with COVID-19 last November. He was hospitalized for 2.5 weeks before dying from the virus.
It's the equivalent of a bomb exploding in your life.
The fact that this happened, it just, so all of a sudden, it doesn't seem quite real to me.
When the Kenton County Public Library offered a way to pay tribute to COVID-19 victims, Susan Kinsella jumped at the chance to include her husband, Scott. The COVID Portrait Project features 24 works of art from 20 separate artists, each one showing the real faces of people connected to the library who died from COVID-19. 24 people with 24 stories.
It's an expression. It's an expression to people that come to the library that we think about you, we care about you, and when you're gone, that's important. We don't want you to be forgotten.
Ron Pregat created this portrait of Scott Kinsella, and although the exhibit opened last month, he was able to meet Scott's family in person for the first time Wednesday.
As an artist, I saw it as my obligation to do the best I can to capture something of the essence of Scott as a person and commemorate that.
The Kinsellas already have a place picked out to display this portrait at home. That and little Scotty Josephine, named after the grandfather she never got to meet, are two of the countless reminders of Scott's impact on the family.
He was really looking forward to being a grandfather.
There's not a moment that goes by that I don't think of him.
The COVID Portrait Project will be on display at the William E. Durr branch of the Kenton County Public Library until Friday. Reporting in Independence, Josh Bazan, WCPO 9 News.
Throughout the week when you're watching WCPO 9 News, we always love to get your opinions about any of the issues and topics we cover. Pick up that phone and call the Feedback Friday hotline at 513-852-4998. I share your thoughts every Friday night on WCPO 9 News at 6 o'clock. You know what? That is a look back at this week in Cincinnati, for this weekend at least. Join us for breaking news, weather, and sports at 6 and 11 tonight on WCPO 9 News. Plus, we are always updating your headlines on WCPO.com, and download our mobile app so you can be in the know on the go.